I'm not trying to be unsafe. She likes it when the chair doesn't wear a mask. So that's why. So I kind of figured be intelligent. So
It is a lot easier to understand.
yeah. So I'm just so everybody knows I'm not going to climb in my semi-truck trailer and block traffic. Right? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special Valentine's Day edition of the Eden Prairie Planning Commission. Today is Monday, February 14th, 2022. And good evening. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, first item on our agenda is the approval of our agenda. Commissioners, do you have any comments or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Higgins.
No second.
Second by Commissioner Taylor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Second item is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, the Planning Commission meeting held Monday, January 10th, 2022. Any comments or changes on the meeting minutes that were distributed? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to pass last meeting's minutes.
Motion to pass our last meeting minutes.
Second?
Okay, motion by Taylor and second by Meddy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we have two public hearings on the agenda this evening. And for our public hearings, we'll ask the applicant if they want to address the commission first and give us a chance to maybe do some question and answers with the applicant. Then we'll go to staff for a staff report and then deliberate. So our first public hearing this evening is the Schulman edition. It's a request for zoning district change from rural to R1-13.5 on 2.47 acres and a preliminary plat of 2 lots on 2.47 acres. Is the applicant here and would they like to address the commission? Please step forward. State your name and address, please.
My name is Tammy Schulman. I reside at 12076 Riverview Road, Eden Prairie.
Great.
And I have a PowerPoint to present this evening, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
As if by magic. I would like to start, if I could, by just thanking everybody that I have worked with at this planning. Everybody has been so wonderful. Kirsten Stockwell, Sarah Strain especially, Julie Klima, everybody has just been over the top helpful, and just wanted to make sure I acknowledge that.
Glad to hear that.
Anyway, this is my place as of about 1951 when this was taken. Within 10 years, the power line was built right where the house is, and the house was moved over to the side of the property. I'm going to show you the aerial view of it now here, and you can see the house is way over on the left, and to make room for that easement. This is the aerial view with those easements in place, so you can see where that strip is right in the center where we're unable to build. I'd like to divide this into 2 lots. Oops, sorry, let me go back here. 2 lots that would, the eastern half would be about almost exactly 1 acre, and the remainder would stay with the house that is existing there. This is the existing survey, and it's microscopic on the screen, so I'm trusting that you have access to something that is legible. It is currently still zoned rural, and it's a little ill-defined because it's such an old property, and right now the driveway is actually on the neighbor's property. I just discovered that after 30 years during this process, and we'd like to correct that. So ultimately, I'd like to get this rezoned from rural to R113.5, which is in keeping with the neighborhood around it, and divide that into those 2 lots, and then we would then relocate the driveway access so it's within the property lines, and my neighbors can have their space back at that point. So that's it in a nutshell. Is there more that I can answer?
Commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicant at this point in time? Commissioner Meddy?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious if during this process you had considered or looked at dividing it into more than just 2? Or did you want to keep it to only 2?
I did actually look at that, and I had a lot of people saying, hey, you should put in as many lots as possible because you could make out like a bandit. It would be great. And I have lived in Eden Prairie most of my life, and I've lived in this place myself for about 30 years. It is important to me to try to preserve the character of the neighborhood. I've talked to my neighbors. None of them want to have really dense property behind them. I sure don't, and I'm going to stay in that house. So no, we're going to try to just be reasonable and practical, because I do need to, divide this. It's a lot for me to maintain myself, but I don't want to destroy that. Does that?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Sure. Okay, good. I have a question.
Yes,
Since
sir.
the topic came up of the encroachment on your neighbor,
Yes.
Are you working on that agreement?
Yeah, they
Okay.
are perfectly ready to sign that as soon as I put it together and ask them to.
Wonderful, thank you. And I noticed when I looked on the, when I drove past, you're on a little hill.
I am.
Up there. And that roundabout driveway kind of navigates that rise and grade pretty well for you. Since
Correct.
it's a shorter driveway now, are you going to have to do a lot of excavating or hopefully not take down any
No,
trees
I'm-
when you relocate your driveway?
It doesn't appear to be much at all, because it'll be basically the same grade running straight down. I don't know if you need to see
all right.
that. It would be basically the same grade. It would just be going straight down to Riverview rather than taking the long way around. The base of the driveway used to be Homeward Hills Road before that development, and that's why it has that turn.
Okay,
So no, it doesn't really alter that. It just means it's about 100 feet less of driveway that I need to clear.
sure, okay, great. Well, thank you for your presentation, we appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. This is a public hearing. If there's a member of the audience that would like to address the commission, you can please stand up and address us. Seeing none, okay. Julie, would you like to run us through the staff report, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, as noted, the request before you this evening is a zoning district change from rural to R113.5. As the applicant pointed out, the request to R113.5 is consistent with the comprehensive plan and is consistent with other properties around the subject property. The request is also to divide the property into 2 lots. One of those lots would be a little over an acre, and one of those lots would be a little under an acre. The requested zoning district of R113.5, of course, has a smaller lot size than that, but due to the sizable power line easement that exists over the property, there would not be the opportunity to further subdivide the properties beyond what is proposed with this configuration. Staff is recommending approval subject to the conditions outlined in your staff report. There is not a PUD request, so there are no waivers being requested. The request is consistent with all city code policies.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions of staff?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. I would take a motion to close the public hearing if you're so inclined.
Mr. Chairman, move to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Kirk. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Higgins. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. This looks fairly straightforward to me, Commissioners.
Agreed. I think it's fairly straightforward and looks to me to be an evolutionary change that fits into the neighborhood and the area. I see no problems with it myself.
Agreed.
Commissioner Meddy? Okay,
Yeah.
agreed. Okay, good.
Mr.
Someone
Chairman,
want to take some action on this? Yep.
move to recommend approval for the zoning district change from rural to R1-13.5 on 1.99 acres and a preliminary plot of 2 lots on 2.47 acres based on plans stamped dated February 2nd, 2022, and the staff report dated February 14th, 2022.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Kirk. Anybody like to second that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Meddy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody need to abstain? Nothing. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with your project, Ms. Schuler.
Yes, good luck.
Okay. We have a second public hearing this evening for the Chick-fil-A. This is a request for planned unit development concept review on 1.27 acres, planned unit development district review with waivers on 1.27 acres, and site plan review on 1.27 acres. Is the applicant here and would like to make a presentation?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Justin Lurk with Chick-fil-A, our principal development lead, and our address is 5200 Buffington Road, Atlanta, Georgia. Just a little bit cooler up here than down there.
A little bit.
Hardly.
So here in front of you again, you all have seen this project before, pre-COVID, I would say, and just have a few little tweaks to the site plan that we'd like to present to you. So I could pull up a presentation and we'll run through this quickly and hopefully get you back to your loved ones in a reasonable time. Is anyone not familiar with Chick-fil-A? I'd be more than happy to give the elongated version. Otherwise, I can give a elevator spiel.
I think we're familiar.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Great. So just a few highlights. Locally owned and operated. It's a family business. Our franchisees typically get one location. And the reason for that is so that they live and work in the community in which they do business as well and become a part of the community. So everybody always asks, what's our secret sauce? And that's our secret sauce. So proud of our operators, closed on Sundays, giving everybody a chance to rest and recuperate and rejuvenate and come back for a great work week. That was something that was important to our founder, Truett Cathy, and we honor that tradition still today. So what we're talking about today is just, like I said, a few site plan modifications. So what we've learned from COVID is that consumer habits have changed and had to adapt when most restaurants had their doors closed, right? Luckily, we've had a drive-through that we'd been known for previously, and our mobile order app that we had developed several years ago. Thank the Lord on that. So what we're talking about today is expanding the drive-through from 2 lanes that had 2 order points, and then it filtered back down to 1 lane until you got to the pickup window, and there was a little bypass lane around that. What we've learned from COVID is that, again, consumer habits have changed. There's still a lot of people that don't feel comfortable going into public place. So we had seen sales in drive-through and sales in dine-in customers pre-COVID, and some sales with the mobile order app. What we found through COVID is we're putting a lot of cars through the drive-through. The mobile order app sales have increased, and with this modification, we call this the dual flex lane. And I'll explain what that means. It means the operator has flexibility to use that second lane as they see fit. We've seen that being used in a few different ways. Number one, if it's in an area with a high mobile order sales, generally there's value in placing your order on the mobile app, getting your food quicker. There's not a lot of value if you have to sit in the drive-through lane and wait with everybody else. So some people use that second lane as a mobile order express lane to provide that value to the mobile order customers. So that's one way. The second way, during peak hours, during our busy times during lunch and busy times during dinner, you can order in lane 2 and stay in lane 2 and pick up your food in lane 2 at the pickup window. And actually the pickup window has evolved as well, and now is a pickup door. What's that mean? It just means all of our associates can bag the food in a nice, warm, safe place inside and then bring the food out to you. I don't know if you've ever been to any of our locations and see people waiting, our associates waiting outside the window, grabbing the food and then giving it to you in your car. So the pickup door opens from the center outward and allows everybody to stay inside just for a safe environment, and then deliver food in lane 1 or deliver food in lane 2, whichever lane you're in. So that's the second way the lane is used. During non-peak hours, we see the second lane after the order point being used as really just a bypass lane. Still filtering the cars down to one lane. We're delivering food to car 1 at the window, or car 2 behind that, or car 3 behind that. If you're car 3 and we deliver the food to you, you can pull around and exit the drive-through, and it creates a more efficient drive-through. So we're here in front of you today to ask for your approval on that. With that, in the previous approval, we had a single lane pickup and a canopy over that single lane at the drive-through window. So if we were to be approved for the double lane all the way around, as part of that, we've got a double lane canopy that covers that pickup window area. Gives protection for our associates, gives protection for you as a customer during inclement weather, which you guys never have inclement weather, right? So no worries there, but that's the reason for the double expansion of the canopy over the second lane as well, is just providing that protection for our associates. We try to get 2 canopies, one over the order point and one over the pickup window. We understand that there's not one, we're not proposing one here over the order points because it's on Flying Cloud, and they said, Julie and team, they've been great to work with, so I echo the previous applicants. Kudos to them. So we're not here asking for that, but we are asking for the double lane canopy over the pickup window. We understand there's a uniqueness with the property line and the 20-foot setback. Right at the corner of the canopy, it's like 7.3 feet versus the 20 feet, but the majority of the canopy meets that 20-foot setback. With the change of the dual lane all the way through, at the entrance to the drive-through, or the entrance to the site, the southern entrance, we've removed 7 parking spaces, and we've created a 3-lane in. So that allows up to 32 cars in our drive-through before it spills out into our parking lot, and then we could fit another 8 in those 2 lanes before we would impact the ring road. We'll just call it the ring road up on the site plan there. So generally, we're trying to design our sites with 30 to 35 cars in the drive-through. This meets that, and is probably going to be one of the bigger drive-throughs we have in the area. So those are the high-level overviews of the changes and some of the reasons why we're requesting the change. I believe there's 3 waivers. Again, staff did a great job explaining the waivers. Number 1, as we made that change to the parking and the drive aisles on the southernmost entrance, as you round the I'll call it the canoe island, there's a little pinch point where we don't hit the 5 feet requirement for the island, and then the same thing at the entrance to the drive-through. There's a little pinch point where we don't meet the 5-foot requirement there from a landscaping standpoint. And then I talked about the side yard setbacks for the canopy, the uniqueness there on the 7.3 feet versus the 20 feet. And then because we have the dual lane drive-through, we have order boards at each one of the lanes. Our order boards are 20 square feet, and the code only allows for 32 square feet. So 20 and 20, we've got 40. We're asking for a waiver of 8 square feet to be able to use both both lanes and have the same order boards on both lanes. We have not changed any of the elevations, or here's our landscape plan, which was previously approved, and we just made a few tweaks to that based on the changes in the site plan, but we're still meeting and exceeding code from a landscaping perspective. And then I'll go back one for the perspective. So we did not change the skin of the building. So it still looks exactly like it did when we approved it last time. The one change that we did make was we now have a set of columns on the outside of the drive-through to support that canopy. And we designed those columns to match the architecture and finishes of the building to try to blend that canopy in as much as possible. And then the top of the canopy is the same metal coping that we have on the top of the building. So all from a design standpoint to try to blend it in as much as possible. And that's the high level overview of the changes. I'd be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicant at this point in time? Commissioner Meddy?
I have one question related to landscaping. I didn't have a chance to look up the specific schedule of some of those plantings there, but I think about driving to the Chanhassen one, which I see a lot, and it's a kind of insane, all these cars there, and you really, I feel like that's the thing you notice is just these huge amount of cars all stacked up and with all these people ordering, and I think it'd be nice to really shield more of the people sitting in the drive-through and allow you to see the building, the Chick-fil-A up above, but low, bushes or other types of low-lying bush type plants that are maybe taller than your smaller grasses and whatnot, I think would help to given this is in the center of our town, and looking at this huge pile of cars stacking up, I think that's for me kind of the only concern that I have with this. It'd be nice if that could be somewhat shielded.
Sure. And I actually have with me tonight Mr. Jeff Westendorf from Westwood. They're our civil engineer and landscape architect. I'm not intimately familiar with exactly every planting, and that's why I brought the experts with me. So, Jeff, I don't know if you want to come up and kind of talk through that with her.
Thanks.
Jeff Westendorf. I'm at 12,701 Whitewater in Minnetonka. There's a great variety of different shrubs, evergreen trees, overstory trees, ornamental trees that really kind of shield this whole edge. We were limited because of some easements on how much we could put in there, but it is all the way up and down the edges of the drive-through.
Thank you.
Yep.
Stay up there. Sorry, I'm gonna jump on Commissioner Meddy's point. I did unfortunately look at the landscape plan and read all your clues there, and I know you got some sedum, some coneflowers, nice stuff, the purple coneflower, but the leaves fall off that. Carl Forester grasses are beautiful, but they don't grow very tall. You got some dwarf shrubs, which are dwarfs, and then the dogwoods, and those leaves fall also. So I think what we're getting at is there's that zone between the short plantings and then your overstory tree canopy, and it's that zone below the canopy but above that ground cover that needs screening of the cars. And so what we're looking for is something non-deciduous, hedge-style height that's more dense to shield. Now you have 2 rows of headlights that are kind of facing cross-traffic on southbound Flying Cloud Drive. Okay, so we got 4 headlights instead of 2 there in the wintertime dark hours. And so that's the screening. It looks great in plan view, but 3-dimensionally, your low stuff isn't tall enough and your tall stuff isn't low enough.
Okay.
That make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can look at some plants and see if we can adjust some heights.
Yeah. Think screening hedge.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay.
Great. Thanks. Other points?
I have a question for you on the traffic. I don't think I was around when this was reviewed, or I was new to the board or to the commissions. During the peak hours or during the hours or the work days of Monday through Thursday, do you have any idea what type of traffic you anticipate seeing visiting or stopping through the Chick-fil-A?
Like during the peak hours, is that the question?
Yes.
What is the peak hours and what type of traffic are we used to seeing? Is that the question?
Monday, I'm looking forward for Monday through Thursday, and then for sure Friday through Saturday.
Okay. So peak hours are generally between 11 and 1 for the lunch hour rush during the weekdays. And we see the same peak hours on Friday and Saturday as well for the week, for the day part. And then for the evening, usually between 5 and 7 are peak hours. And volume really, really depends on each individual restaurant. But I think a general sense is, looking at going back to some of the traffic studies I've seen where we've done actual traffic counts, can range anywhere from 150 cars an hour to 250 cars an hour during those peak times.
Okay. Commissioner Moody?
I have a follow-up question on that. I don't know if this was addressed or not in the traffic study, but is thinking of the larger overall development, and I forget if it's Castlebrook Road or what that new road is that's coming through, and I think that's further back than the current road, so hopefully that does allow, do we anticipate most of the users are going to be then at the north end of the building, exiting north onto Flying Cloud, and when they're forced to turn right, so is that intersection there going to get piled up to the point where it's piled up to Castlebrook, and then people can't really get out of the development very well? So I don't know if that was ever looked at in a traffic study, but I'm just kind of curious if we think that's how the traffic pattern will work.
Yeah, we generally try to separate exiting traffic with incoming traffic just so there's not any kind of conflicts there. But there's no limitation. If you're a drive-through customer, there's no limitation to only turn right. You can turn left as well onto, call it the ring road, right? But I want to make sure I answer your question, so maybe ask that one more time.
I guess the question is, do you recall that being looked at in any of the traffic studies as to the potential backup at Castlebrook and Flying Cloud?
To my knowledge, there was no concern with the backup at Castlebrook and Flying Cloud, no.
Okay, before we let you sit down, just in terms of incoming, outgoing traffic, again, looking at the site plan, I don't know if we can bring up that site plan again, Julie, if that's possible, on his PowerPoint. But I'd like to just fully understand the south driveway that you're expanding to 3 lanes wide, and then there's another driveway immediately to the northeast that has 2 lanes entering. I'm sorry, 1 lane entering and 1 lane exiting. Okay, so I'm assuming that the arrows, the black arrows that are on the site plan, may be more appropriately painted closer to the ring route so that they can see them and identify where they're supposed to be before they actually get there. But that aside, I'm trying to understand your 3 lanes of stacking when you enter that southernmost driveway, and then the new 3rd lane that you added. Are they allowed to merge into the 2 going through the drive-through? It sounded like you had that 3rd lane for additional stacking, but I don't see a merging opportunity there.
Yeah, let me try to help clear that up a little bit. So the 3 lanes, we'll just call that entrance 1, the southernmost entrance. The 3 lanes, and we'll call that lane 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Lane 1 and 2 are for drive-through queuing if it gets back that far.
Okay.
The 3rd lane you're talking about is for someone who wants to still be a dine-in customer. They can go past if there's cars stacked in lane 1 and 2. It allows for circulation around that canoe island. So it's not necessarily stacking for drive-through. It's just to keep circulation moving around that area where you see lot 2 on the site plan.
Oh,
So kind of a one-way drive aisle, if you will.
All right, so they come in at lane 3, I think you called it, and they can only proceed
To the parking spaces.
to the parking spaces and then turn left and loop back.
Yes.
Got it. All right. And then going to the driveway number 2, then you have another inbound lane. Okay. And that arrow suggests to me that one could go straight. But that's counterintuitive of what you just said for lane 3, looping around the other way, because that's one-way traffic. So where's that
They
person
could go straight to hit those few parking spaces, call it on the south side, by our dumpster pad, the south side. But generally, that, call it entrance number 2, would be used for cars coming in and then immediately making a left to go in front of the store. And we'll have probably a better signage package that'll direct cars more appropriately.
Okay.
But I understand your concern.
Yeah, ours is not to manage your interior circulation of your site, but here we are. And so I just want to make sure we get that square so that there's minimal confusion, I think, through signage, and maybe you did some diagonal striping of the southernmost stalls to promote that. I'd be concerned about that lane number 4, I guess, and driveway number 2, wandering too far towards the drive-in lanes and thinking he could then exit out there.
So there'll likely be do not enter signs. I can't see it from here. But
There is one a do not enter sign specified, S.4, at the end of that. So then they are
Little canoe
hopefully
island.
deterred from going straight.
Yep, okay,
Yep.
all right. So fine. So curious about that.
And right at the entrance to the drive-through, where it changes from asphalt to concrete, you'll see there's painting on the pavement as well that just says drive-through. A lot of times we can carry that forward just right next to the ring road as well, just
Sure.
so people know the lane 1 and lane 2 are for drive-through.
Yeah, in all honesty, I think that's where the confusion may happen, if it does happen, is out there on the ring road,
Yeah.
presented with 2 driveways next to each other where you can enter both of them. That just seems intuitively confusing to me, but as long as you guys feel comfortable with it.
And
then
that's really an
it's on your private
overflow
property.
valve. Like the drive-through is designed to where we should be able to accommodate any cars within the drive-through at any given time. That's those extra 2 lanes are really an overflow valve before it would impact any of the roadway system.
Okay, thanks.
My pleasure.
Any more questions of the applicant? Okay, thanks, Justin. Appreciate it. Again, this is a public hearing, and so if there are any other members of the audience that would like to step up and address the commission, please do so now. Welcome. Please state your name and address for us.
Hey, Jonathan Smith, 11837 Harvest Lane. And I was just looking at the site plan for the expanded canopy of the drive-through and just wanted to hear a little bit more about if it impacts like the area for people and greenery, and it looks like it might be encroaching upon that existing plan and if that plan is impacted or not.
What plan specifically do you think it's impact?
For me, on the paper, it's on that tree replacement and landscaping plan, and it's the
Okay.
blue square that
Sure.
is that 2-lane canopy.
Right.
And it looks like it's encroaching upon, like, where sidewalk and greenery and space for people to dine and or just hang out. Yep. So I just wanted to see if that is changing that part, or if that existing plan is still in place.
Okay, I'll, as long as you're up here, I'll try and answer the question myself, and I'd like the applicant to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the drive-through lanes that are passing that end of the building are not changing from the previously approved plan. The canopies for weather protection overhead. There's a nice public area just north of this site that, again, for public enjoyment, there's some sidewalks and some benches and shrubbery and things like that for public enjoyment, and this project will not go past their designated property line to impact that public area.
Gotcha. Yep.
Okay?
Commissioner Farr, can I also try to answer that? Because I'm curious too if the applicant can confirm.
Absolutely.
Because I'm looking at the 3D colored rendering
Yes.
of the canopy, and it looks like it's over landscaped area, but it appears on the site plan that the canopy is actually only over the drive lanes and pretty much ends right after the 2-lane width.
Got it.
So if that can be, if my understanding of that can be confirmed.
Yeah, Justin, maybe you just want to punctuate that with an affirmative here?
Renderings are great until you try to look at some of the very, very fine details, but the edge of the canopy columns would be at the back of the curb of our drive-through. So they'll be right up to the drive-through, and then we'll have 7.3 feet from the very tip of the canopy to our property line.
Okay.
But the columns are about 3 feet on the inside of the edge of the canopy, if that makes sense, just from a structural standpoint.
Did you have to adjust any sidewalks to make accommodation for those
We did not.
columns?
Nope.
Okay.
We did not.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else that would like to address the commission? Seeing none, Julie, can you run us through the staff report, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the request before you this evening is for a planned unit development concept review, or PUD district review with waivers, and a site plan. This is a plan that's been before the commission multiple times. This is, as we're getting closer to construction, the final version of what is expected to be constructed. So as the applicant discussed, there's a canopy being proposed on the Prairie Center Drive frontage or direction of the site, as well as some modification to the drive-through entrance. There are 3 waivers that are being requested. One is for landscape island size and width. As you'll recall, code requires a minimum square footage as well as a minimum width. There are 2 of the islands proposed on the site that have smaller dimensions at certain locations of their construct. The overall parking island on-site exceed code requirements. Code requires 5% of the parking lot be covered with islands, and this project proposes in excess of that 5. So basically what that means is there's a couple islands that are smaller, but there are also multiple islands that far exceed what code requirements are. A second waiver is for drive-through signage. They are requesting a waiver to increase the amount of square footage of drive-through signage from 32 square feet to 40, because with a double drive-through, they would expect to put in more than 1 sign, so they are requesting that waiver accordingly. And then the third waiver is with regard to, let me just double check, make sure I speak correctly, side yard setback. So on that side yard setback where the canopy is proposed, again, there's a pinch point. So at its closest, that canopy would be about 7 feet from the property line versus the 20 that's required. But as you move, I'm going to call it south towards Flying Cloud Drive, that canopy will at a certain point meet that side yard setback requirement. It's just because of the way that property line is angled and the way the drive-through flows through there. Now in this particular case, staff is not concerned about that side yard setback because the common property line includes that gathering plaza type of area, and in addition, the Bank of America building is being constructed on the far side of its lot. So there is more than adequate distance between this building and the Bank of America. In fact, if the Bank of America lot ever were to redevelop and put a building at its required setback, there would still be more than adequate distance between those because of the planned plaza or gathering area that's there. So staff is recommending approval subject to the conditions outlined in your staff report, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Commissioners, would you like to ask any questions of staff at this time? Okay. Mr. Rook, you heard us ask questions about the circulation from that ring road onto the site with those multiple driveway entrances. I think there's now 4 lanes possibly to enter the site. Refresh our memories. This is a private road. It's not a public road, so we may not have a lot of jurisdiction or empathy. But what are your feelings about the configuration of those 2 curb cuts with 3 and 2 lanes each?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, if you recall back when we did the other additions in this area, there's been probably 3 or 4 approvals in this area with Castle Ridge and Paravel and so forth. There was a overall traffic study that was done for all those developments, the whole site work. And then there was an amended traffic study that was done with the change in grocery and so forth, and that had occurred. But with all those traffic studies, what we really looked at was the connection points to the public system onto Prairie Center Drive and onto Columbine, and those all worked adequately. The internal circulation, as you're talking about, there will be a lot of traffic in that area. There's a lot of uses in that area. And again, like you mentioned, it's a private roads with multiple access points for multiple businesses. I think the key to that whole area will be proper signage, so that particularly on this site, Chick-fil-A having proper signage so that people understand that what's a inbound trip and what's an outbound trip. And I think in that area where you've got that 3-lane approach, I think you were calling it driveway 1, I can see some potential conflict area right where around that corner as that inside lane turns left. And the next drive lane over. So I think signage would be very critical in that area so that people don't end up kind of going out the inbound lanes. But it's all internal signing that'll have to be, or striping or something that'll help direct the traffic.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bourne, what did you think of our conversation about those taller, non-deciduous plantings between Flying Cloud Drive and the drive-through lanes? Any problems with that?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, obviously that's something we look at when you have kind of the headlights pointed straight towards the road, and with the Carl Forster grass, typically get to 3 feet tall or more, and then with kind of the grade change, the curbing, obviously that's going to be about 4 feet above where the actual grade is of the cars in the drive lane. So definitely we can take a closer look, especially before they make that turn, and kind of run parallel to see if there's some evergreen shrubs or something else that could be specifically in those points. But at our initial look at it, it seems to be adequate, but I think it definitely could be beefed up.
Okay, good, thank you.
If you don't mind, I want to just add to my comment on this whole landscaping thing. Is I think another part of it is the idea that we have this plaza, and I'd like to, I think people would like to sit in the plaza and not like have all these cars like 5 feet away from them. So, a barrier of such, I think, for that area too, both visually and the users, I think is important.
Right, and it may not have been so bad when that was only a bypass lane because of such infrequent use of a bypass lane, but now with cars stacking up there waiting for their meal, and so the cars will appear more frequently intruding upon that public space, to your point. I agree with that assessment. So, so anything we can do to encourage the applicant to make more of a landscape buffer between that public area and that second drive-through, I think would be very much appreciated. Okay?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
just one additional comment. It's kind of a general reflection of what we're talking about here, and that is I think Chick-fil-A has been, Mr. Lark has been his comments have been very interesting relative to the change that's gone on in the last few years. And, we obviously have to flex with the changes and the consumer changes and the situation. Chick-fil-A obviously, as an active and successful business, is flexing well with it. And I think as a city, it's good for us to kind of file this away, and be thinking about what's going on and what kind of changes, because drive-throughs aren't going to go away. And in fact, drive-throughs are probably going to be as active or as prevalent as they ever have been, given what we've all been through in the last couple of years. So this is a learning experience for all of us, and I think we as a city need to learn from it. And Chick-fil-A is doing it in real time, and we ought to be thinking.
Good point.
I agree. I think that's a good point, and I think it emphasizes a couple things. One, the idea of as a suburb with drive-throughs, can we still make it a pleasant space to be out and about on foot, on a bike, and whatnot, like in using this plaza. And it's an interesting point, because I think pre-COVID I would have looked at this and said, this is overkill. Holy crap! Like this. But I drive by, as I said, the Chanhassen one, and I'm like, we would much rather have this than have all those cars backing out onto, and clogging up the parking lot and whatnot. So I think that at the end of the day, this is helping.
That's good comments, Commissioner Middy. Appreciate that. Before we let staff go, the additional small amount of impervious surface area, Mr. Rue, are we concerned about that triggering additional stormwater management BMPs? No? Good. Thanks. Okay. And then the Julie, last one for you. Light fixtures under the canopy on their lighting plan, they're called fixture type H. It's an LED surface-mounted fixture to the underside of the canopy. It's got a little globe to it. The lens sticks down a bit, and so while the illumination pattern and foot candles may be very appropriate at ground level, it'll probably spill some glare out laterally. And I didn't know if that was going to be a problem or a concern to people on Flying Cloud Drive or anything like that. They weren't recessed can fixtures up in that thin little canopy.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, a photometric plan has been submitted, and staff has reviewed that and does not have any concerns.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Moved by Commissioner Higgins, thank you.
Second?
Second by Commissioner Kirk. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Thank you. Okay, Commissioners, what do you think about this?
I'll go quickly. Overall, aside from the comments we've had, I think it's a good plan. I do think that the canopy, I like that it's fairly minimalistic. It matches the architecture of the building, blends in very well, so I don't think it'll be obtrusive. Overall, I think everything looks pretty good.
I would agree with Commissioner Meddy, and I think it's, as I said before, I think it's a little snapshot of the future. And I think this is a good implementation of that need that's out there now and likely, in my opinion, will remain.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And the one thing we haven't focused on that I don't have anything insightful to say about, except that it's on my mind, that we have a lot of folks who are going to not be driving in. They're going to be there as residents of that new neighborhood, and they'll be walking. So that is also a thought that may need to be given some time to kind of see what that's like as you take a look at what's around there now. And that comes to mind because they're going to be kids too. It's not just going to be folks who are, driving the car and
Sure,
all contained. It'll be something else. So it's not, I'm not suggesting that I have anything special, except some of the things that we've already talked about, I think, help to kind of contain people where they want to be without being in the way of people who are driving in and out.
Sure.
I hope.
Good point.
And the signage might help too, to keep people aware of that. So, because that's a very different site, for instance, than the Chanhassen site for that other restaurant. So it's a different kind of deal altogether.
Children and the elderly with the senior
Oh,
facility.
the elderly too.
Yeah,
We've got some
exactly.
seniors in there too.
Yeah, so conflict between vehicles and pedestrians is heightened awareness.
No, I think this is a great project, and it's going to be a great addition to Eden Prairie. Years ago, we took our leadership team to one of the Chick-fil-A's, and the purpose of that visit was to see how the hospitality and the courtesy and the service was of the team, and it opened our eyes to some things that we could be doing better from a customer service standpoint with the organization I work for. But hopefully you'll bring that to this site as well. I think it's a great project.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. I'll resonate the same things. I think that you've got a great brand, and look forward to having you in the community. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move to recommend approval for a planned unit development concept review on 1.27 acres, planned unit development district review with waivers on 1.27 acres, and site plan review on 1.27 acres based on plans dated January 7th, 2022 and February 3rd, 2022, and the staff report dated February 14th, 2022.
Thank you, Commissioner Meddy. We have a motion by Commissioner Meddy. Would anybody like to second that motion?
I have a motion. I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Anybody wish to abstain? None. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Good luck with your project. right, moving on. Julie, do we have a planner's report this evening?
No, sir.
All right. Do we have any members' reports?
I do.
Commissioner Kirk.
I would just like to recognize one of our sage advisors, Rod Rue, the City Engineering Association of Minnesota named Rod Engineer of the Year, and he was recently awarded that honor. And I think we, as a city, are lucky to have somebody with his experience, his competence, and the thing that actually our Vice Chair here, Mr. Farr, and I were discussing at one point in time was the foresight and the idea that we aren't redesigning streets and sewers and stuff when we have major developments going on because of the foresight of the engineering team led by Mr. Rue in this city and how that's a great asset to our community. So congratulations, and I wanted to get that on the record from the Planning Commission in general.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well deserved, well deserved. We're very proud to have you in the city. Okay, anybody else? I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.